Basic care of guppies. You gotta understand. Stay tuned. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jason with Jadren Aquatics. So today I want to get back to some basics with you guys. Let's talk about simply the care of guppies from start to finish. Well, let's talk about it. So let's start off with the very first thing is tank size. What tank size are you going to put guppies in? As with almost any fish, the bigger the tank, the better, because the bigger body of water you have, the less chance of something going bad as quickly. It takes a lot longer for something that's going wrong to spread in a much larger tank than a much smaller tank. You have a very small tank, things go bad really, really quickly. So you want to keep that in mind with all fish. The other thing you want to keep in mind is the fact that the more space that you give them to swim, obviously the better that it's going to be. But a 10-gallon aquarium for 3 guppies is absolutely fine. And you can put more in that. People will get into arguments back and forth on, exactly how many guppies you can keep in there. And a lot of it has to do with what your husbandry is, or the way that you take care of them, the way that you do water changes and things like that. It allows you to have more fish in there when you're doing more and more water changes. So guppies, standard setup with a 10-gallon aquarium and have 5, 6, 7 of them in there, you'll be just fine. Now we'll talk about reproduction in guppies later and breeding them, but you'll be quickly overrun in that 10-gallon aquarium with that many guppies. I promise you, if you've got males and you've got females. Okay, so when you're choosing the guppies, the thing that you want to be sure is you want to keep, you typically want to keep at least 2 females to every male, because if you've ever watched guppies, the male will harass the female to death. It's in their DNA. The male guppies are like teenage boys. Like, that's all they think about is sex. And that's all this guppy thinks about. He's just after these females all the time. So he'll literally kill a female, stressing her completely out. So the more females that you have, the better. It's never more males, it's always more females. So typically, what I like to do is I like to buy them in trios so that I get 1 male to 2 females. So if I have 2 males, I have 4 females, and so on and so forth. That you'll have a lot better success, because a lot of the problems that you end up dealing with guppies are typically based upon stress. And stress brings on a lot of other disease that come along with it. So you want to avoid stress as much as you possibly can. So best to keep them in trios. Or if you just love males, if you just love because the male being having the fanciest tails, even though there are some females that have some beautiful, beautiful tails. If you want to just keep all males, you can do that also. When you do that though, you're going to have to worry a little bit about fin nipping. Okay, so we've got our tank now. The next thing that we need to talk about, we've chosen our fish. Let's talk about, again, we're talking about basics here. You need to make sure that you have a properly cycled tank. You can't go to the store, buy a tank, buy some fish, come home, take some water from the tap, put it in there and put the fish in there. You're going to kill it. First of all, the water that you use, you need to dechlorinate it. You need to use something like Safe or Prime, or there's a whole bunch of different dechlorinators that are out there that either lock up the chlorine that's in your tap water or that lock up the chloramines that are in your tap water. Now typically if you're on a well water system, that's something you usually don't have to worry anything about. But first of all, you want to dechlorinate your water, and then you want to make sure that you have a cycled tank. And so the idea of what a cycled tank is that it means that there's the bacteria that's in it. That bacteria will take that waste that's produced by the fish and will convert it into nitrite. And then you'll have another bacteria that will take that nitrite and then will convert it into nitrate, okay? So you can do a whole bunch of different searches on this so you can understand it. So we're just going to kind of talk about the basics of it. So typically if you set up a brand new aquarium, it's going to take it's probably going to take about 6 weeks minimum for your tank to completely cycle before you can safely put fish in there. And there's a lot of different ways to cycle tanks. You can go to somebody's that you know, or go to an aquarium store and get some gravel that they already have, or some type of filter media like a sponge, and take that out of their tank and put it into yours. That way it will speed up your cycling process. But that's a whole nother video that we won't get too deep into. But again, just make sure that you have a cycled tank that has no ammonia and no nitrite in it whatsoever. So the next thing is for your tank is lids. Do you need a lid or do you not need a lid? With guppies, you need a lid because these guys will jump and they get spooked easy. So if you've got your lights that just click on like that don't have a dimmable function, that shooting onto the lights like that will spook them sometimes and will cause them literally just to shoot straight out. Or if there's some type of loud noise or vibration, they will just immediately shoot out of the water, and you will find them on your floor the next day. I speak from experience. So be sure that you have a good lid that keeps them from being able to jump out. The next thing is the type of water that you want to use. Okay, so when you talk about guppies, most of the guppies that we get in today's in today's fish stores are typically either from Florida or Thailand or Sri Lanka, but they're typically from a place where the temperature is about 80 degrees almost all the time. So you can keep guppies in colder water than that they can withstand it. But the problem is guppies have been inbred so many years that a lot of the guppies that we have today can be difficult to keep because of the fact that again, that their genetics aren't as good as they were in the wild. So if I was you, I would shoot for keeping my water no less than 72 degrees and all the way up to 80, 81 degrees. The only thing you need to realize is that the warmer that you keep the tank, when you get it up around the 80 and 81 degrees, the metabolism of the guppy is sped up a tremendous amount. So it actually, it's going to eat a lot more because it's processing food a lot more. Some people even say that it'll actually shorten the life of the guppy. That part, I don't know if I've seen any scientific fact behind that or not, but I have heard it said before. And so the idea also is, are you looking to keep them in a soft water or hard water? And that's based upon pH. That's when you do pH tests. Now, this isn't something you should worry a whole lot about. People can get caught up chasing numbers a lot. Typically, if you'll acclimate your fish correctly, then you don't typically have to worry really about what you're keeping them in. But if you're looking to breed them, and again, we'll have another video on breeding, it's really good for the fish to keep them more in a hard water, that's a water that has a lot of total dissolved solids in it. It's got a lot of calcium and stuff in it. They typically breed a lot better like that. And the females, whenever they, they're giving birth almost every 30 days, and it's rough on their body, and they're using a lot of the minerals and stuff that are in their body. So the reason that you need that hard water is so they're surrounded by a lot of those minerals and stuff that their body can absorb to replace those minerals that they're constantly using as they're giving birth. Next question is, do you add salt or do you not add salt? Now, guppies will do fine in a brackish water settings, and I've even seen people that have taken guppies and they've slowly acclimated them over time by adding a little bit more salinity to the water, making it more salty, finally getting it to the point where it's the same salt as seawater, and the guppies can actually live in it. So you don't have to put salt in the water. It's not necessary. Some people say they do a lot better in it, but here is the beneficial part of adding salt into it. When you begin to add salt into your aquarium, a lot of the bacteria and parasites that are out there, they can't survive those salty conditions. So you can make a healthier environment for your guppies by adding a little bit of salt to them. But the negative part about that is if you're using like a cleanup crew that has snails and stuff, snails don't like salt, and salt will kill the snails. So you need to take that into consideration. Food. As with all tropical fish, it's best to keep a wide variety of food for these fish. Now, you can feed them just standard tropical fish flakes. Typically, flakes like that are good at keeping up the coloration and have all the different things that they need in it. But you want to try to mix it up some. So it's good to buy some frozen food. So maybe feed them some frozen brine shrimp, bloodworms, daphnia, other small type particle frozen food like that. And then if you can, it's even better to be able to feed them some live food like they eat in the wild. The easiest thing to breed out yourself or hatch out yourself to feed them is brine shrimp. Many of you may remember as a kid they called them sea monkeys. That's exactly what brine shrimp is. You simply buy some eggs, you put them in some salted water, and in about 3 days, if you keep them at about 80 degrees, they'll hatch out and you'll have these little tiny, almost microscopic brine shrimp that you can feed to your guppies that they absolutely love. So there's other things like daphnia, vinegar eels, other type of live food that's perfect for your guppies. It's just going to make them more healthy when you mix up their diet, because what you're thinking about is, again, guppies are way removed from the wild. But still, if you think about the diets that they have there, it's going to allow them to live a longer life, being able to eat a wide variety of food, because then they're getting some of the things out of certain foods that they might not be able to get out of other foods. Now, can you feed a guppy its entire life on the exact same flake food and it'll live? Yes, it will. But do you want to eat the exact same thing every single day? I don't think so. All right, let's go ahead and cut it off right here. We'll make this part 1. Be sure and stay tuned for part 2. You guys got any comments, be sure and leave them down below. If you've got anything you want to add that we've already talked about, be sure and put that in the comments down below. So thanks again, guys, and God bless.